Jaguars owner Shad Khan told reporters that he won't make a hasty decision on coach Urban Meyer. Quote, I want to do the right thing for the team. I want to do the right thing for the city. That, to me, is way more important than just acting helter-skelter on emotion. I think we have a history of really looking at the facts and then really doing the right thing. I want to welcome back in Mina Kimes. And Mina, I want to start with you on this one. Should the Jags allow Urban Meyer to finish the season?
No. Why? I have yet to hear a compelling reason for why Urban Meyer should continue to be the coach of this football team. Is there a football one? Obviously, the record speaks for itself. Trevor Lawrence's lack of development speaks for itself. The sloppiness on offense speaks for itself. Urban Meyer speaks for himself when he constantly defers blame, when he's asked about players and seems unaware of whether or not they've even taken reps in games. You could argue, I guess, in favor of organizational stability midseason, but with all due respect, this is the least stable organization in the NFL right now, maybe next to Las Vegas with what they've gone through, largely because Urban Meyer has been a distraction. He was a distraction before the season. He's been a distraction during the season. He's a distraction now with these latest reports about him being disrespectful to his employees. I am not sure what keeping him would accomplish other than rewarding mediocrity and denying accountability to a guy who's avoided accountability, frankly, for most of his career. I think ownership should act now and show leadership and show your fans, your players and employees that you care about this season because it's already lost.
Well, that's why it's not a priority to show that you care about the season, because it's already lost. So I respectfully disagree with you in terms of him being gone now. No, if he's all those things that you say, Mina, let him sit there and suffer these last 4 games. Let him suffer the consequences of his ineptitude. That's really what this comes down to, and let him deal with it, because he's gonna get paid anyway. So you send him out the door, you're paying him for doing nothing. And I understand some people will look at him and say, well, he ain't doing much now, but he is suffering to some degree because this is a difficult situation to be in. Here's what I want to reiterate that I said yesterday. He definitely needs to be going. He cannot be back as the head coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars for next season. He has to be gone the second this season is over. And that was taken into account, the reports. But guess what, Mina? Guess what, Keyshawn? It's not because I think there's truth to it. Do I think that, Urban Meyer said this in front of 53 players or about a bunch of coaches right in front of them? I don't know whether it's true or not. I'm not going to question the veracity of the report. It's hard to imagine. But what I will say is this. Either it's true or a cadre of individuals have collaborated to come together and smeared this man. Either way you slice it, it is an indictment against him as a leader. They don't like him. They don't want to play for him. They wish he wasn't there. They want nothing to do with him. And they want him out the door, and they want him falling on his face while he's heading out the door. This is an untenable situation. Irreparable damage has been done. There's no way to make it better. But since the season is already awash, and it's done, you might as well keep him on the job, Key, until the season is over. It's only 4 more weeks to go.
I think he should be gone. I don't know when that is. I don't know if it's when you say he should be gone at the end of the year or today, like Mina says, but he certainly should be gone. And here's what I would say, and it'll probably take you guys by surprise. I don't have a problem with him talking about his assistant coaches, because I've been with Hall of Fame coaches, Super Bowl winning coaches, that have basically attacked their assistant coaches for not doing their job properly. So I don't get caught up in that. That doesn't bother me as much as what he started doing, like Mina said, at the beginning of the season, the things that he's done in the middle of the season, and now where we're at. So if you put all of those things together, that is a problem. On top of that, one of the things that Shad Khan, the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and his son have always done, they've owned the team for about 10 and a half, 11 years. They fired 4 coaches, countless front office and personnel people. So seeing them say that they're going to take their time, take a look at it, talk to people outside the organization and figure it out, that smells like doomsday to me about Urban Meyer. On top of that, if you keep Urban Meyer in the building, and you know this, Mina, and you do too, Stephen A. as well, because you cover the offseason and you cover free agency, it's going to be very difficult to lure somebody in free agency, no matter how much money you're giving them, to want to go to Jacksonville and play. If you go back several years ago, they fired Tom Coughlin for some of the same reasons in front office organization, doing things that he shouldn't have been doing. And therefore, players started to speak out and say, well, I'm not going to Jacksonville. I don't want to do that. Now, you think they're going to want to repeat that same mistake again? So it is going to be time for him to go. But is that in January when the season's over? Or is that on Monday after this Sunday's game?
Tom Coughlin, incredibly successful over the course of his NFL career, but Keyshawn, he did a very bad job in Jacksonville when it came to personnel, from extending Blake Bortles to the Fournette pick to all of the issues with players. If anything, I think Jacksonville, alienating Jalen Ramsey, it's a great point. If anything, I think they waited too long to move there. I frankly don't think the mistakes of the past should dictate their actions now and not pulling the trigger on the right move. And Stephen, just to talk about this incident, what's come out, these reports with him showing disrespect. And Keyshawn, I do think it is disrespect to coaches who have won Super Bowls, calling them losers. I don't think that's acceptable. And I also think this, for that sort of report to come out and come out the way it did, that speaks to a level of discontent that's probably worse than we know about, because it is extremely unusual for coaches, staffers, to put their jobs on the line. You heard Urban Meyer talking about them being unemployed. And I think it shows just how much dysfunction there is in there. So what would it accomplish now? It's not going to save the season. You're right. But it sends a message to those employees, some of whom will still be around, to your players who have been dissatisfied, that you have your priorities in place and that you care about them more than your lame duck coach.
The reason I say that, Mina, it is disrespectful, but I've been around coaches that have won at a high level, and you'd be surprised some of the things that they say, not only to the players, but also in their staff meetings about one another. Yeah. So that's why I'm like, whatever. That's not even that big of a deal.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.